Hey there, Metalheads, Flying V here. Today, I'm going to show you guys how to disassemble and reassemble a fat PS2. So, the things you're going to need are a medium-sized Phillips head screwdriver, a fine Phillips head screwdriver, and some needle nose pliers. So, first thing you want to do is that you want to turn the console over and either cut or just peel off the warranty sticker. I just cut it just because, because the sticker is still there. So, yeah. If you want, you could remove the expansion bay cover. You don't have to, but I think you're eventually just gonna have to remove it anyway. So I'll just remove it like right now. So there it is. Put that off to the side. And then next, you want to take off all the feet because the screws are hidden underneath here. So there's 4 rubber feet, which is here, 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 and here. And you have 4 plastic feet, which there's 2 here and 2 here. And you can simply just take a fingernail and just, wedge it under the feet, and you can take them off, and you'll just see a screw right there. And the plastic ones, you can use a variety of different ways to do it. Like, you could also take a fingernail and take them out. Let me get this real quick. Or you can take like a flathead screwdriver, wedge it under there, and pop it out. But once you remove all the feet, then you can remove the screws. Okay, so now all the screws are out. 2 things you should take into account. First of all, you need a medium-sized Phillips head screwdriver. They're super common, so you should be able to find these like anywhere. If you don't have one of these, you can just find one in a hardware store. Second thing is that the 4 screws that go in these holes here are this length, but the 4 screws that go in all of these holes are this length. So just take that into account when you're putting your PS2 back together. Don't mix these up. So next, you want to flip the console over, and you want to be cautious of this area here. First thing you can do is just lift the lid up. The reason why I said be cautious is because there's a ribbon here. So the next thing you want to do is that you want to remove the buttons from the casing. So there are a bunch of different ways you can do this. Like, you can take like a fingernail and wedge it under this back area here, or again, you could take like a Phillips head screwdriver and just wedge it around, wedge it in like this area. It may take a little bit. Hang on. Alright, there we go, I got it. So you can just pull the thing out of the system like that. And you can put the lid off to the side. Okay, so next you want to remove the 5 screws that are in this area. There's 2 on the controller ports here. There is 1 here in between the power thing and the fan. there's one right here, and then there's one that's underneath this thing, located right there. So basically, just take the same medium-sized Phillips head screwdriver that you used on the other screws and remove those 5 screws. Okay, so I've removed all the screws. Take into account that they are this length and a brass-ish color. So once you have this out, you can, if you want to, you can pull this thing, the power thing. I still don't know what to call this. You can pull it out of this thing. And you can also remove the controller ports and the memory card slot. Simply just pull up here, and there's a little thing that holds the ribbon cable in place. Let me just zoom in here. No, it's not far enough. Okay, there we go. You just take a fingernail, kind of wedge under there, and flip that up, and you can pull the ribbon cable out. You can put these off to the side. Okay, so now that the controller ports are removed, we can now remove the PS2 from its internal metal casing. So, I'm pretty sure there's a couple different ways to do this, but the way I'm going to do it, I'm just going to lift it up from this side, just metal it a little bit, and there we go. And we can put the bottom piece off to the side. Okay, so the next thing you can do is that you can remove this piece. Simply just lift the thing up like this, and you can pull the fan out. And then you can put this piece off to the side. So if you guys remember from my original video, I did it about as far as here. Now I'm actually going to go much deeper into the system. If you are not confident you can disassemble it beyond this point, just stop the video here. But if you want to know just how to disassemble the console entirely, keep watching. So the next thing you want to do is that you want to flip the system over again. Just do it here. There we go. And then you want to remove the 4 screws that hold the power board in place. So take your Phillips head screwdriver and remove those 4 screws. Okay, so once the screws are out, take into account that the 4 screws there are this size and again are a brass color. To remove the power board, it's connected here by this white plug down here. It's kind of hard to see because the fan is in the way, but you want to be careful, and you want to detach it from that plug. And once you do, you lift it up, and this little cable comes out of here. You want to wind that away, and that is essentially your power board. The power switch and power port assembly is connected to this. You could remove this if you want to, but you don't have to. So let's put this off to the side. Of course, the next thing you can do is that you can remove the metal shielding for the hard drive if you have one. You can also remove this piece of plastic here with the blue line on it. So simply just trying to metal it past all the other parts here, and you can remove that. Next thing we're going to do is that we're going to remove the fan, simply held in here by a little plug. There will be a piece of tape right here, but I removed that a while ago. But there will be a piece of tape there, so just remove the piece of tape, and then simply just pull lightly and unplug the fan from the PS2. Then you can just put this off to the side. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to remove the power and eject button assembly, and the disk drive. Removing these two things are a little difficult because you got to be careful with the ribbon cables here. So basically, you take some needle nose pliers and very gently remove the ribbon cables. So you just pull it out here. It's basically the power and eject button assembly. Next, you want to remove the ribbon cables for the disk drive. So very carefully detach all the ribbon cables. There we go. I think this one you can just remove with your finger, because that one's really tiny, so be careful with that one. So once you've removed all the ribbon cables, you can then remove the disk drive. So just take a flathead screwdriver, wedge this thing under there, and bend this little piece here, because that's the other part that's holding the disk drive in place. So once you get that, you can then remove the disk drive. There we go. Now, the last thing you need to do is that you have to remove the ribbon cable on the laser. You just adjust the camera here, zoom in. There we go. There are two little clips right here and here. You just flip those. Then you just pull the ribbon cable out like that. And the disk drive, you zoom out here, has been removed from the PS2. Okay, now this is something completely optional that you can do. If you don't have to replace the PS2 laser, you can just skip over this part, but if you have to replace the PS2 laser, or if you just want to clean it, for some reason it doesn't read discs properly, you should pay attention to this part, okay? First thing you want to do is that you want to remove this top tray here. So you take a fine Phillips head screwdriver and remove the 4 screws around the sides. Okay, so once you removed all the screws, take into account that they are this size and this length. You can then simply lift the tray off. So there you go. Next, you can remove the disc tray. The disc tray is held in by 2 screws right here. They're the same size as the ones we just removed, holding the top tray in place. So again, take the same screwdriver and remove those 2 screws. Okay, once the 2 screws are out, you simply lift up on this part here and then slide the disc tray out. So put this off to the side, and then to completely remove the laser, you can remove this screw right here. So then you can put the screw off to the side, and then you can detach the pole, pull the pole out, and the laser is now removed. First thing you can do is you take the disc tray, slide it back on here, slide it back onto this piece here, put the 2 screws back in. Alright, the next thing you can do is put the tray back on. Now, don't actually put the 4 screws back in yet. Now, it's okay because the tray will just be held on here by this little white thing, because there's a magnet in here that attaches onto the metal part of the disc spindle here, which is also a magnet. So basically just stick it back on there like that, and let's move on. Alright, so now that's done, you can then flip the console over again, and then you'll see there are a bunch of little screws holding this part of the metal shielding in place. So you take a fine Phillips head screwdriver and remove all of these screws. Okay, so I've removed all the screws. Taking into account there were a total of 9 screws holding this part of the metal shielding in place. Taking into account that the 2 screws that go here and here are a gold color, and the rest of the screws, which go here, 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 and here, are a silver color and this length. So just take that into account when putting the console back together. So once all the screws are out, you can basically lift this piece of metal off, and you can put it to the side. Next thing you can do is you can flip this over again, and then you can remove the top metal shielding. Now, bear in mind, it's actually held on to some of the chips by an adhesive, so just very gently, carefully remove this piece of metal. This takes a little bit, so you're gonna have to pardon me. There we go. I've gotten the metal shielding off. I'll put this off to the side. And this exposes the board. This is basically the entire system. If you want, you can remove the clock battery. Like, if your battery's dead, then you could just, take a flat screwdriver, wedge it under, and pop the battery up. You could do it. Or you could replace the battery. I've already replaced the battery. If you want, you can also remove these other 2 ribbon cables, but I'm not going to do that because they're really not connected to anything. So basically with that, the PS2 has been completely disassembled. So do any maintenance that you would like to do on your PS2, then let's put it back together. Alright, the first thing you can do is you can take the big metal piece we just removed and you can stick it back on the chips. So that part is simple enough. Next thing we're going to do is that we're going to put the disk drive back in. So first thing you want to do is that you want to stick it back on here and then flip the system itself over. So hang on, let me just get that there. There we go. Next, you want to reattach all the ribbon cables. Hang on. There we go. The last one goes here. So there you go. Next thing we're going to do is that we're going to put the power and eject mechanism back in. So first thing you can do is slip the ribbon cable back through the hole here. Just make sure it's set the proper way. There we go. And then next we'll reapply the ribbon cable into here. So there you go. The power and eject mechanism assembly thing has been reattached. So let's move on. Alright, next thing we're going to do is that we're going to put the metal shielding back on. So, going to just stick it back on, where is it? Oh, we'll put it like right here. There we go. Make sure that, there we go, it's back into place. Then you put all the screws back in. Alright, next thing we're going to do is that we're going to reattach the fan. So, pretty simple. You reseat the fan in this area right here. And then you take the little plug and you stick it back in there like that. I'll zoom out here. After you put the fan back in, you can take this piece of plastic and reattach it right here. So, hang on. There we go. Okay, next thing you can do is that you can take the metal piece here and reattach it right here. Next, you can take the power board and put the power switch and the power cable assembly down here. You wind the cables back into this area right here, and then you reattach it right there. So the power board is now back in, and you put the 4 screws back in. Okay, next thing you want to do is that you want to flip the system over. So then we have to reattach the laser. So simply lift the tray off here and remove the 2 screws in the disc tray. Once you remove the screw, you can then pull it up like this. Then you take the ribbon cable and reattach it to the laser. Then you take these 2 little clips here and you press in on those to seal it. Once it's sealed, you can then stick the laser back into its place. And then you put the screw back in. Alright, once the laser is back in, you can then reattach this tray and then put the 2 screws back in. Once you do that, you can take the top tray, stick it back on there, and then put all 4 of these screws back in. Next thing we can do is that we can start reattaching the plastic pieces. So first thing we can do, we'll attach this piece, put the power assembly back in there, and then we'll reattach the fan. So there you go. Okay, next thing you can do is that you can put the 3 brass screws back into the 3 respective holes. Alright, so once that's finished, you can take this piece and put it back in there. Now we can put it back into the internal casing. So, take the bottom piece here, stick it right here, and then you can reattach all the entire system into the internal casing. If you want, you can turn the thing around here, and you can want to make sure that this piece goes into place properly, because if you don't do that, then it'll be kind of difficult to put the console completely back together. Let's see. I think I almost got it. There we go. Got it. The next thing we can do is we can reattach the controller port to the memory card slots. Simply, let me zoom in here. Take the ribbon cable here, reattach it in there, flip that little thing down, slide it back under there. The controller port's back on to the little plastic bits right here and here. You can take the two brass screws that hold this in place and put them back in. Okay, now it's time to put the lid back on. First thing you want to do is that you want to take the lid. You want to make sure that the ribbon cable is wrapped completely around the button assembly, like that. So you basically put it back in there like that. Want to make sure that it gets snapped back in all the way. There we go. We'll just turn the thing around here, and then you reattach the lid like that. Okay. The next thing you can do is put the expansion bay cover back on. And then you flip the console over, and then you put the remaining screws back in. Alright, so once all the screws are back in, you can take all the feet and reattach them all. Okay, so all the feet are back in, all the screws are back in. Simply flip the console over, and the PS2 has been reassembled. So that basically does it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Share the video, and the force be with you. Mosh hard.